Of all mammals, human babies may be the weakest. A lamb can stand up shakily just a few hours after birth and find its mother to nurse. A calf can also struggle to its feet pretty quickly and stay close to the cow. But human babies? When they are born, they cannot even hold up their own heads. They cannot walk, they cannot sit, they cannot roll over. They cannot speak. When they are hungry, they cry. When they are sleepy, they cry. When they pee or poop, they can only cry. This completely helpless little baby pees and poops many times every single day. Some rough estimates suggest that a healthy baby may have more than 2,000 bowel movements and urinations during the first year of life. And if you add up the urine, feces, soiled clothes, diapers, and padding, the total amount of dirty stuff that needs to be dealt with may come close to a ton. I really feel that number. When my daughter was first born, I stubbornly tried to use pure cotton cloth diapers because they seemed more breathable and healthier. But the reality was, I had to wash more than 10 cloth diapers every day. Some of them had poop on them. And that was not even the most exhausting part. The worst part was when the diaper was not wrapped properly, and my baby's clothes got wet, the bedsheet got wet, and then everything had to be washed. At that time, disposable diapers honestly felt like a lifesaver. But what if this had happened much earlier? No disposable diapers, no washing machines, and no dryers. Sometimes not even a clean piece of cloth. How did those mothers get through it? The methods people used in different parts of the world may really surprise you. For example, in some museums in northern Alaska, you can still see a very small sealskin pouch. It looks plain and unremarkable. But hundreds of years ago, it may very well have been a diaper used by Inuit mothers for their babies. The Inuit people living within the Arctic Circle faced extreme cold. If they had to change a baby's clothing too frequently, the baby could lose body heat almost instantly. So they made waterproof pouches out of sealskin. And inside those pouches, they stuffed dried Arctic moss. When the baby wet it, the outer insulating layer did not have to be fully opened. Only the wet padding inside needed to be replaced. Dried moss is highly absorbent. Some sources also mention that it may have certain antibacterial properties. This could reduce the risk of the baby getting frostbite, while also helping the baby's skin stay away from moisture and dirt as much as possible. In ancient northern China, mothers used another resource, fine sand. They would sift the sand until it was very even, dry it over fire or under the hot sun, and then place it inside a cloth pouch as padding for the baby. After the baby urinated, they only needed to replace the wet sand. Because of its physical properties, sand can absorb moisture quickly and keep the surface relatively dry. This reduced the time a baby's skin spent sitting in dampness, which could also reduce diaper rash, broken skin, and discomfort. But in water-scarce regions, or in tropical areas where warmth was not the main concern, humans used a completely different strategy. Even today, in parts of Africa and Southeast Asia, many mothers still do not use any form of diaper. They rely on a technique known as elimination communication. It is not simply because they do not have diapers. It is because caregivers really do observe the baby's body signals over a long period of time. Through constant close contact, often by carrying the baby against the body all day, mothers learn to sense the tiniest signals from the baby. A sudden tightening of the muscles, a change in body temperature, or a certain repeated movement pattern. Through this high-frequency interaction, the mother can quickly hold the baby over a designated place just a few seconds before the baby eliminates. The biggest advantage of this method is that the baby does not have to sit in urine or feces for a long time. And the family does not have to deal with a huge pile of dirty cloth every day. But the cost is also obvious. It requires someone to be almost constantly attached to the baby. We cannot simply judge which method is better. Every method comes from its own living conditions. However, when humans entered what we call civilized society, things moved in an extremely absurd direction. In ancient Rome, and throughout much of medieval Europe, a deeply mistaken medical theory became popular. The famous physician Serenus believed that a baby's limbs were as fragile as tender grass. If they were not bound straight, they would grow crooked like vines. So tight swaddling became extremely common. Mothers used thick strips of linen, wrapping babies from head to toe like little mummies, even pressing their arms tightly against their sides. Because wrapping a baby this way was extremely complicated, and because people at the time generally believed that frequent bathing could harm health, Many babies were cleaned only once a day. This led to very serious consequences. Babies were left sitting for long periods in ammonia produced by decomposing urine. Their skin could develop severe burns, redness, and ulcers. In an environment that already lacked hygiene knowledge and medical care, this undoubtedly increased the risk of skin infections and illness in infants. This practice of wrapping babies like little mummies influenced Europe for a very long time. It was not until the 16th century, during the era of Queen Elizabeth I of England, that this kind of binding slowly began to loosen, and a square cloth diaper called a clout began to become more common. But these cloth diapers brought an extremely dangerous problem: how to fasten them. There were no buttons at the time, and of course, no Velcro. People could only use ordinary metal pins to hold the diaper in place. Ordinary pins were sharp, and babies twist and kick. During a diaper change, one careless movement could stab the baby. This remained a safety problem until 1849. A repairman named Walter Hunt, trying to repay a debt of just $15, twisted a piece of wire into a spring pin with a protective clasp in only 3 hours. This was the safety pin. This tiny invention made fastening diapers much safer. But in order to pay off his debt, Walter Hunt immediately sold the patent for $400. At the time, he had no idea that this invention would eventually create tens of millions of dollars in value. But the pin only solved the fastening problem. Cloth diapers still had two major problems. First, they leaked. Second, they had to be washed. To solve the leaking problem, people began adding waterproof layers over cloth diapers. For example, rubber pants or waterproof diaper covers. It sounds reasonable, right? Cloth on the inside, a waterproof layer on the outside. Urine would not leak onto the bed, and clothes would not get soaked. But then a new problem appeared. Early rubber diaper covers were not breathable. Yes, they trapped the urine inside, but at the same time, they also trapped moisture, heat, and dirt right next to the baby's skin. So the bedsheet might stay clean, but the baby's bottom became more likely to turn red, irritated, and sore. Many inventions are like this. They solve one problem and then create another. The real turning point came in the mid-20th century. In the 1940s, an American mother named Marion Donovan was not only a mother, but also the daughter of an inventor. She was tired of soaked bed sheets. So at home, she picked up a shower curtain and started cutting. A shower curtain was waterproof. She turned it into a cover that could be worn over a cloth diaper. Later, she kept improving it. She changed to better materials. She replaced pins with snap fasteners. She made it less likely to leak and less likely to hurt the baby. But when she took this invention to manufacturers, she was rejected almost everywhere. Their reason was surprisingly similar. The current products are fine. Nobody is complaining. Of course, the people who washed diapers every day were not them. In the end, Marion had no choice but to make it herself. She brought the product to Saks Fifth Avenue in New York, and once it was put on the shelves, it quickly sold out. What does that tell us? It was not that mothers did not have a need. It was that the people making the decisions had never truly listened to them. Disposable diapers truly entered the modern industrial track because of a chemical engineer at Procter & Gamble named Victor Mills. He had just become a grandfather, and he was also exhausted by diaper changing. He did not want to keep washing cloth diapers. He did not want to keep dealing with all the wet, dirty, leaking mess. The difference was he was not a mother fighting alone at home. He was working inside a company with research teams, production lines, and a sales system. So the experiments began. How should the absorbent material be placed? How could the outer layer prevent leaks? How could it be mass-produced? How could the price be lowered? In 1961, the first mass-market disposable diaper, Pampers, finally entered the market. At first, not every family could easily accept it, because a disposable product meant using it once and throwing it away. Cloth diapers were troublesome, but they could be reused. Many families had to do the math. How much did one diaper cost? How many would be used in a day? How much would it cost in a month? But as production scaled up, prices fell, and the rhythm of daily life changed, more and more families began to accept disposable diapers. Looking back at this whole journey, from moss, fine sand, and cloth, to waterproof diaper covers, and then to the disposable diaper we can tear open so easily today. It may look like just an ordinary baby product, But behind it are generations of caregivers facing dirty, exhausting work that could not be avoided. Disposable diapers are not perfect. They also bring waste and environmental problems. But they have indeed helped many babies suffer a little less. And they have helped many mothers wash one less basin of dirty water and go through one less midnight breakdown. Some inventions may never be important enough to be written into history books. But if they truly reduce the burden of daily life, then they already matter. I'm Yo-Yo. See you next time.